Now to the Israel-Hamas war, where hopes for a potential ceasefire in Gaza still hangs in the balance. Negotiations continue in Cairo, Egypt, though. We're learning that a Hamas delegation will indeed go back to Cairo tomorrow to resume talks. The proposed truce would free some of the remaining hostages held by Hamas in exchange for a pause in the fighting. Palestinian prisoners are also expected to be released by Israel as part of that deal. Israeli officials also confirming the death of yet another hostage in Gaza. This is 49-year-old Dror Or. He was taken by Hamas on October 7th from the kibbutz. Joining us now from Tel Aviv, our foreign correspondent Tom Sufi-Burridge. So, Tom, the families of these hostages are really counting on this deal to be reached, clearly, so their loved ones can finally come home. I know you had a chance to speak to yet another father of one of those victims being held by Hamas. What did he tell you?
Yeah, Kira, this is Jonathan Deckelhen's father to Sagi Deckelhen, age 35. He's one of the 5 American-Israeli hostages that we believe are still alive, being held by Hamas inside Gaza. And actually, Sagi's youngest daughter, he's father to 3 young girls. His youngest girl was born whilst he was in captivity during the last 6 months, effectively, while he was still a hostage. Look, his father, Jonathan, was saying to me that in the past he's been very critical of the Israeli government and criticising them for, in his words, not putting or prioritising the lives of the hostages in this war. He now believes that the Israeli government has made important concessions in terms of this proposed deal, which is on the table, which Hamas is considering. And really interesting he was about the prospect, or the threat at least, from the Israeli government of going into Rafah in southern Gaza, the Israeli military planned operation there where more than 1 million Palestinians are sheltering. And look, Jonathan said, look, it wouldn't be his preferred option, but he says that threat, that option has to be on the table to force Hamas to accept the deal. Take a listen to what he said.
This is a critical moment because if Hamas cannot get to yes right now, I am quite certain, and I fear that very different steps are going to have to be taken in order to get our hostages home. That will bring more misery in the short term.
Well, Jonathan also spoke about what he described as the political infighting within the Israeli governing coalition. Some hardliners pressing Netanyahu not to accept in what they term as a bad deal. And Jonathan basically said he hopes that Prime Minister Netanyahu has the moral and the political backbone to do what is right and not necessarily what's in his own political self-interest. Kira?
Tom, before you go, we're now learning that CIA Director Bill Burns is in Egypt to join these talks. What are the sticking points between both sides that are preventing this deal from being done at this point? And what do you think the director can do?
Well, I mean, look, the US is pushing this process. The main sticking point, I think we're clear about it, Kira, is whether or not in this proposed deal there is at least a pathway towards a definitive end to the war. The Israeli government has suggested, and this seems to be their position, that they want to keep the window open to go into Rafah at some point in the future to try and take out the remaining Hamas battalions, which they say are hiding in that city. We're told by Egyptian state TV that the Hamas delegation will go back to Cairo, where the head of the CIA has now landed, and that process will continue tomorrow. There are unconfirmed reports, we can't confirm these, that the Israeli government has given Hamas a 1-week deadline. Kira?
All right, we'll track it, Tom. Thanks so much.